Overcompressing will kill your vocal. First of all, we need to understand what compression is and why we're using it. Compression simply levels the volume of an audio signal. So whenever a vocal becomes too loud, it just gets turned down. We're just making the volume of the vocal more consistent, more level, and more even. The reason we do this with vocals especially is because the human voice is naturally very dynamic, meaning we can speak loudly and very quietly. When somebody is angry, they become louder, more expressive. However, if a mother was speaking to her child, they would be more soft and more gentle, more affectionate. Emotion can affect dynamics. Even our language is dynamic. Think about how different the sounds that come out of our mouth are. We have sharp consonants like T's and K's, T, K, but there's also softer ones like L and M, even longer vowels like A, E, I, and so on. All of these factors should give you a picture on how dynamic our vocals can be. Now, think about this. Your vocal has to fit inside this beat packed with instruments. You're gonna have drums banging, 808s booming, guitars, pianos. There's gonna be a lot going on, a lot that we're hearing. It's gonna be busy. And that's why, without compression, our vocals can get lost in the beat. That's where the magic comes in. By reducing dynamic range, the vocal becomes more focused, more controlled, more concentrated. It sits in the mix because it has a space where our ears can easily identify where it is. When our ears hear a vocal at a consistent level, it gives us the illusion of clarity. It gives us the illusion of intelligibility. That's why a lot of you guys starting out will hear a vocal and will think, yeah, I can't hear it. I need to turn it up. I need to make it louder. If you get your compression right, the vocal will appear louder anyway. Even think about it visually. If I had a massive basket of apples and oranges and it was all spread out, and I told you to concentrate on the oranges, you would find it hard to identify all of them and focus on all of them at the same time. However, if all the oranges were in the middle and all the apples were outside it, you would be able to see the oranges clear as day. That is why we compress. If you're new to compression, probably thinking, okay, that all sounds good, and you want to compress the hell out of every mix that you touch. But understand, if we take this too far, the results can actually negatively impact our mix. So this video is to prevent you from overcompressing, so you can be in that sweet spot every single time. So what are the side effects of overcompression? Firstly, you can have a lifeless sound. Too much compression can take away the natural volume fluctuation that provokes emotion. If you completely kill the dynamics, the vocal will sound dull and robotic. Secondly, overemphasized low-level noise. Because there is less of a difference between the loud parts and the quietest parts, low-level noise will become more obvious. So things like breaths, S's and T's, or even pops and clicks in the mouth, they will be more noticeable and more obvious. If these things become overemphasized and overbearing, you're compressing too much. Thirdly, you can have a loss of transience. A transient is just the initial sharp burst of sound at the start of a phrase. The initial energy. For example, T in tiger or K in Kansas. If your attack time is too quick, transients will get smothered, taking away the bite in the vocal, and it can also bury the vocal behind in the mix because nothing's popping out. You're getting rid of the energy. The fourth thing I don't have a name for. It essentially comes down to not having your release time set correctly. Release, briefly, is how quickly the audio signal returns back to its original volume after compression has taken place. If your release time is too long, it will take a very long time for your vocal to turn back up after the compression, which means if you have a loud phrase that triggers the compression will stay active and the vocal will stay reduced. Because the release time is so long, vocal never actually ends up getting back up to its original volume in time. So it can just sound like it's staying squashed down forever. On the flip side, if your release time is too short, the vocal will actually turn itself up way too quickly in between the phrase, for example. So there's just a random pump in energy and it can sound very unnatural. So putting all of these together, these are the settings that I recommend as a starting point to not fuck up your compression. Attack, medium, around 10 to 30 milliseconds. The whole point of this is to just let the transient through. Simple. Next, we have ratio, around 3 to 1, 4 to 1, enough to reduce the peaks, but nothing crazy. Threshold. Again, you want your threshold set at a point where just the peaks are being reduced and not the whole vocal, to ensure that you preserve some dynamics, but they're just controlled. And your release just needs to be fast, but watch out for the pumping effect. Once you've set your compressor, bypass it. If the vocal sounds better before compression, then you've done too much, so tweak your settings from there. But yeah, that's a really transparent starting point. It's not going to be too obvious, so if you don't know what to do, just start with that. These concepts will save you from years of frustration, so internalize them and get it right now. If you're passionate about music and want your mixes to sound industry standard as quickly as possible, my private community will be launching next month. Limited to 10 people. You'll have early access to all of my courses, one-on-ones, online and in person as well, with access to tens of thousands of pounds worth of gear. This is only available until next month at this price, and there is literally no risk in joining because I guarantee a free mix every month while you learn. But that's all. Have a productive day. I have been Tay, the savior of mixing.